Have you ever poured your blood, sweat, and tears into a beautiful backyard garden, only to watch it get absolutely devoured by a swarm of relentless pests? Or maybe you have dug up your potato patch at the end of the season, expecting a massive bounty, only to find a handful of sad, tiny potatoes. Today we are going to change all of that forever. We are talking about a garden hack so powerful and so incredibly simple that it almost feels like cheating. I'm going to show you exactly what to throw into your potato planting hole to make the dreaded Colorado potato beetle disappear completely while miraculously doubling your harvest. But here is the real hook. The chemical companies absolutely do not want you to know about this. They want you buying their expensive toxic sprays year after year. We are going to reveal a completely natural, zero-cost secret that defies everything modern agriculture tells you. Do you believe you need synthetic chemicals to grow massive crops? Stick around, because we are about to turn that belief completely upside down. Let me know in the comments right now, have you ever lost a crop to the potato beetle? Before we reveal the magic mixture, we have to understand the enemy and the battlefield. The Colorado potato beetle is a legendary agricultural nightmare. Originally native to North America, this tiny striped insect spread across the globe in the 19th and 20th centuries, devastating crops and causing massive famines. For decades, the standard response was chemical warfare. Farmers sprayed incredibly harsh, poisonous pesticides over their entire fields, contaminating the soil and water. But here is the fascinating part. Before these chemicals existed, our grandfathers and great-grandfathers successfully grew massive, healthy potato crops. They did not have laboratories. They had deep observational knowledge of nature. They understood that the soil is a living, breathing stomach, and if you feed it the right raw materials at the exact moment of planting, the plant will defend itself. Today we are bringing back that forgotten ancestral wisdom, combining it with modern biological science to create an unstoppable potato-growing strategy. So, what exactly is this magical concoction that you need to toss into the planting hole before you drop in your seed potato? It is not some expensive chemical fertilizer, and it is certainly not a toxic pesticide that requires a hazmat suit to handle. The secret lies in a simple, zero-cost combination of ordinary wood ash and dried onion skins. Yes, the very things you probably throw into the trash or compost bin every single week. When you combine the powdery, mineral-rich texture of pure wood ash with the papery, sulfur-infused layers of dry onion skins, you create a biological powerhouse. Imagine this mixture as a two-pronged attack system. The ash provides an immediate and highly concentrated dose of essential minerals directly to the root zone, while the onion skins act as a slow-release aromatic shield. Let us paint a picture here. You are standing in your garden, holding a handful of this dry, rustic mixture. As you drop it into the dark soil of the planting trench, you are not just feeding a plant. You are setting up a highly sophisticated natural defense perimeter. Many modern gardeners fall for the myth that only synthetic granules can deliver a bumper crop, but the reality is that nature perfected this recipe thousands of years ago. By returning these specific organic leftovers to the earth, you are unlocking a cycle of growth and protection that no laboratory can perfectly replicate. Now, let us talk about your garden's public enemy number one, the infamous Colorado potato beetle. Why does this relentless pest absolutely despise this simple natural mixture? It all comes down to the highly sensitive olfactory system of the beetle, combined with the physical properties of the ash. The Colorado potato beetle relies heavily on its sense of smell to locate potato plants from miles away. When you bury a generous handful of onion skins in the soil, they begin to decompose slowly, releasing sulfur compounds into the surrounding earth and air. This creates an invisible, pungent cloud that effectively masks the sweet, starchy scent of the growing potato foliage. Imagine trying to find a freshly baked pie in a room filled with strong, cutting onions. You would be completely disoriented. Furthermore, let us debunk the widespread myth that beetles only attack the leaves and ignore the soil. The truth is, these pests overwinter in the ground, and when they emerge in the spring, the very first thing they encounter is your protective layer of ash. The microscopic sharp edges of the wood ash act as a physical irritant, while the high alkaline nature of the ash creates an incredibly hostile environment for any insect trying to crawl through it. They are repelled before they even get a chance to lay a single egg on your precious plants. Moving beyond pest control, let us examine exactly how this specific mixture literally forces your potato plants to double their yield. The secret weapon here is potassium, which is found in massive, readily available quantities within pure wood ash. Potatoes are incredibly greedy when it comes to potassium. It is the core fuel they use to transport starches from the green leaves above ground directly down into the swelling tubers below ground. Without enough potassium, you end up with those disappointing marble-sized potatoes that barely cover the bottom of your harvesting basket. But when you place the ash directly in the planting hole, the emerging roots wrap around this nutrient source immediately. Think of it like giving your potato plants an intravenous drip of pure energy right from day one. I remember speaking to an old farmer who illustrated this beautifully. He showed me 2 potato plants side by side. One was grown in standard soil, and the other had a handful of ash at its base. The root system of the ash-treated plant was twice as wide, thick, and dense. There is a common myth floating around that adding too much organic matter will just give you huge leafy green tops and no actual potatoes. While that is true for high nitrogen fertilizers, our ash and onion mixture is intentionally very low in nitrogen and extremely high in potassium and phosphorus, directing all the plant's energy straight into creating massive, heavy potatoes. Let us dive deeper into the hidden fungicidal properties of those dry onion skins you are dropping into the dirt. While we focus a lot on the visible pests like the Colorado potato beetle, the real silent killers in any potato patch are soil-borne fungal diseases such as late blight and potato scab. Onion skins are absolutely loaded with a powerful antioxidant compound called quercetin. As the papery skins slowly break down in the dark, moist environment of the planting hole, they release this compound, which acts as a broad-spectrum natural fungicide. It is like wrapping each vulnerable seed potato in a microscopic, protective force field. Consider a scenario where the spring weather turns unusually cold and wet for 3 consecutive weeks. Normally, this is a death sentence for freshly planted potatoes, as the damp soil becomes a breeding ground for rot and fungus. But with the onion skins in place, the quercetin actively neutralizes fungal spores before they can penetrate the skin of the seed potato. We need to completely shatter the myth that you must spray harsh copper-based chemical fungicides to prevent blight. By addressing the health of the immediate soil environment right at the moment of planting, you are building the plant's immune system from the inside out. The soil remains healthy, vibrant, and perfectly balanced, allowing the plant to thrive without any artificial chemical interventions. You might be wondering about the exact proportions and the preparation of this miraculous garden additive. It is beautifully simple, but getting the ratio right ensures maximum effectiveness without shocking the soil. You want to aim for a mixture that is roughly 3 parts dry wood ash to 1 part crushed dry onion skins. The ash must come from untreated natural wood. Never use ash from charcoal briquettes or pressure-treated lumber, as those contain toxic binding agents and heavy metals that will poison your food supply. Collect your onion skins over the winter, storing them in a breathable paper bag in your pantry so they are completely dry and brittle by planting season. When the day finally comes to plant your potatoes, grab a large bucket and crush the onion skins into smaller flakes with your hands, then fold in the fine, grey wood ash. The visual contrast between the bright, papery red and yellow onion flakes and the soft grey ash is actually quite beautiful. A classic mistake, and a myth perpetuated by impatient gardeners, is that you can just dump this mix on top of the soil later in the season. That simply does not work. The magic only happens when this mixture is placed at the exact depth of the root zone. You need to create a cozy, nutrient-dense bed directly underneath the seed potato, so the very first delicate roots that emerge instantly encounter this life-saving combination. Now we must discuss the incredible synergy between this natural fertilizer and the watering cycle of your potato crop. Potatoes need consistent moisture, but they absolutely despise sitting in soggy, poorly drained soil. Here is where the physical structure of the crushed onion skins plays a surprisingly crucial role. While the ash dissolves relatively quickly to feed the plant, the onion skins break down much more slowly. During the first few critical months of growth, these little papery fragments act like tiny sponges mixed into the soil around the developing roots. They absorb excess water during heavy rainstorms, preventing the seed potato from rotting, and then they slowly release that stored moisture back into the surrounding dirt during hot, dry spells. Imagine holding a dry sponge under a running faucet. It swells and holds the water, stopping it from just running away. That is exactly what is happening under the surface of your garden. Let us debunk the myth that sand is the only way to improve soil drainage for root crops. Adding handfuls of organic matter like our onion skin mix not only improves the physical drainage and aeration of the heavy soil, but it also adds vital nutrients, something plain sand could never do. Your potato roots will easily push through this light, fluffy, perfectly balanced soil environment, allowing the tubers to expand rapidly without any physical resistance. What about the secondary invisible pests that lurk beneath the surface? I am talking about the dreaded wireworm. If you have ever harvested a beautiful, giant potato only to find it riddled with deep, perfectly round black holes, you have been a victim of the wireworm. These tiny, hard-shelled larvae swim through the soil and drill into your tubers, ruining the harvest. But here is the brilliant twist. The wood ash in our secret mixture drastically alters the acidity level of the soil right in the immediate vicinity of the potato. Wireworms heavily prefer slightly acidic soil to navigate and hunt for food. When they approach the perimeter of your ash-treated planting hole, they encounter a sudden wall of high alkalinity. It burns their sensitive exterior and forces them to retreat immediately. An old neighbor of mine once demonstrated this by planting one row with ash and one row without. At harvest time, the untreated row looked like it had been shot with a tiny machine gun, while the potatoes from the ash row were completely flawless, smooth, and perfect. It is time to debunk the stubborn myth that wireworms are an unavoidable part of growing organic potatoes. You do not need to surrender a portion of your crop to the bugs. By strategically altering the microenvironment right around the tuber, you create an invisible barrier that these subterranean pests simply cannot and will not cross. Let us transition to the actual planting day and the exact mechanics of how you should place this mixture into the earth. Precision matters here if you want to see that magical doubled yield. You start by digging a trench or an individual hole about 6 to 8 inches deep. This depth is critical because it keeps the developing tubers protected from the hot summer sun later on. Once your hole is ready, you take a generous handful of the ash and onion skin mixture, about the size of a tennis ball, and scatter it evenly across the bottom. Next comes a very important step that many people miss. You must take a trowel and lightly mix that handful into the bottom inch of the native soil. You never want to place the raw seed potato directly onto a solid pile of pure ash, as the concentrated alkalinity could temporarily burn the tender new roots. Think of it like adding hot sauce to a meal. You want it mixed in for flavor, not swallowed in one burning gulp. After blending it slightly, you place your sprouted seed potato right in the center, with the eyes facing straight up toward the sky. Finally, you cover it gently with the excavated soil. There is a myth that potatoes are indestructible and can just be tossed onto the dirt and covered with straw. While that might yield a few tiny spuds, taking the extra 30 seconds to properly prepare the underground environment with this mixture is what separates an amateur garden from a truly professional high-yield harvest. Have you ever considered what happens to the beneficial soil microbes when you use this specific method? We spend so much time talking about destroying pests like the Colorado potato beetle, but farming is also about building up the good guys. The microscopic bacteria and beneficial fungi in your soil are the invisible workforce that breaks down organic matter into food your plants can actually eat. Wood ash, when applied in these moderate, targeted amounts, provides a massive influx of calcium, which is essentially the building block for microbial cellular walls. When you add the onion skins, you are providing a carbon-rich food source for these microbes. As soon as the spring rains hit the soil, a microscopic feeding frenzy begins. The population of beneficial earthworms in that specific area will explode as they are naturally drawn to decaying organic matter. I have dug into these treated potato trenches mid-season, and the sheer volume of fat, healthy earthworms wriggling around the root zone is absolutely staggering. They tunnel through the dirt, leaving behind nutrient-rich castings and creating perfect air channels for the roots to breathe. Let us completely shatter the myth that all bugs and critters in the dirt are bad. By creating this localized oasis of organic nutrition, you are enlisting an army of millions of microbes and worms to work tirelessly underground, feeding your potato plants every single hour of the day. We must address the incredible impact this method has on the actual flavor and storage life of your harvested potatoes. It is not just about getting twice as many potatoes, it is about growing a superior, premium quality food. When potatoes are grown in soil that is heavily supplemented with synthetic chemical fertilizers, they take up water far too rapidly. This results in huge tubers, yes, but they are internally watery, bland, and prone to rotting within weeks of being placed in a root cellar. However, when potatoes rely on the slow, steady release of potassium from natural wood ash and the complex minerals from onion skins, they develop a dense, highly starchy internal structure. The cell walls of the potato become incredibly strong and resilient. Picture slicing open a perfectly grown, organic potato. It should feel firm, almost snapping under the pressure of the knife, rather than feeling spongy or leaking excess water. This density translates directly to a rich, earthy flavor that simply cannot be bought in a supermarket. Furthermore, it completely debunks the modern myth that root vegetables inherently spoil quickly without modern refrigeration. Potatoes grown with this ancient ash and onion technique cure beautifully, developing thick, protective skins. You can place them in a cool, dark basement in the middle of autumn, and they will still be absolutely perfect, firm, and ready to roast in the dead of winter. Let us look closely at the life cycle of the Colorado potato beetle to understand why this intervention is so devastating to their population. This insect operates on a very specific biological clock. The adult beetles overwinter deep in the soil, waiting for the temperature to rise. When they dig their way up in the spring, their primary goal is to find a host plant, feed voraciously to build up energy, and then mate and lay hundreds of bright orange eggs on the underside of the leaves. But when your potato plants are emerging from soil heavily amended with sulfurous onion skins and alkaline ash, the chemical signals of the plant change. The sap circulating through the leaves contains trace elements that make it incredibly bitter and unpalatable to the adult beetle. Imagine waking up starving, finding your favorite restaurant, and discovering every single dish has been heavily salted and soaked in vinegar. You would leave immediately. That is exactly what the beetles do. They might land on your plant, take one microscopic bite of a leaf, and instantly decide to fly away to your neighbor's unprotected garden. We must destroy the myth that you have to kill every single bug to win the war. You do not need a graveyard of dead beetles. You simply need to make your plants so biologically unappealing and robust that the pests voluntarily choose to relocate. This is the ultimate, elegant victory in natural gardening. Let us introduce a fascinating variation to this method that many veteran gardeners swear by, which is the addition of crushed eggshells. If you want to turn your potato hole mixture from a great defense into an impenetrable fortress, start saving your morning eggshells alongside your onion skins. When you crush eggshells into a fine powder and mix them with the wood ash, you are introducing a massive spike of slow-release calcium directly into the root zone. Calcium is absolutely vital for the structural integrity of the potato skin. Without it, potatoes are prone to cracking open in the ground during periods of heavy rain, leaving them vulnerable to rot and insects. But the benefits do not stop at nutrition. The sharp, microscopic edges of the crushed eggshells act exactly like diatomaceous earth. For any soft-bodied larvae or soil-dwelling grubs attempting to approach the growing tubers, crawling over this mixture is like dragging their bodies across a field of broken glass. It physically destroys their outer membranes, causing them to dehydrate and perish long before they reach your crop. There is a persistent myth that eggshells take years to break down and are useless in a fast-growing vegetable garden. While large halves will sit there forever, pulverizing them into tiny shards completely changes their physical properties, making the calcium highly available and providing immediate mechanical protection against soil pests. I want you to imagine the dramatic difference in the sheer size of the root system when you utilize this technique. A potato plant is essentially a massive biological factory. The green leaves are the solar panels capturing sunlight, but the roots are the vital conveyor belts transporting raw materials underground. When you plant a potato in plain, unamended dirt, the roots have to struggle and stretch incredibly far, burning precious energy just to find trace amounts of necessary minerals. This exhausts the plant. However, when you use the ash and onion skin mix directly beneath the seed, you create a concentrated buffet of nutrients instantly accessible to the shortest, newest roots. Because the roots do not have to waste energy searching for food, the plant channels all of that saved energy into violent, explosive top growth during the first month. I have seen plants treated this way grow twice as tall and wide in just 4 weeks compared to their untreated counterparts. Let us completely dismantle the myth that roots only grow deep to find water. Roots actively seek out nutrient-dense pockets in the soil. By intentionally creating this supercharged pocket, right where you want the potatoes to form, you essentially trick the plant into building an incredibly compact, dense, and highly efficient root ball, which directly translates to a massive cluster of huge potatoes at harvest time. It is essential to understand the historical context of why this specific combination works so perfectly. This is not some trendy new internet hack. It is survival knowledge that kept entire generations fed during incredibly difficult times. Think back to early homesteaders and farmers in the 19th century. They did not have access to commercial garden centers, artificial nitrogen, or chemical bug sprays. They had to rely entirely on the closed-loop system of their own homesteads. The fireplace provided the wood ash, which was carefully collected and saved all winter. The root cellar provided the onion skins, peeling off as the winter supplies were consumed. By combining these waste products and returning them to the soil in the spring, they were practicing advanced biological farming without even knowing the chemistry behind it. They knew from brutal trial and error that planting potatoes without this mixture resulted in meager harvests and fields decimated by beetles. We need to actively push back against the modern myth that newer is always better in agriculture. The aggressive marketing of synthetic garden chemicals over the last 50 years has brainwashed people into believing they cannot grow their own food without buying a plastic bottle of poison. By reclaiming this ancestral technique, you are not just saving money. You are participating in a proven, sustainable tradition that honors the earth. What exactly happens during the critical mid-season flowering phase when you have used this method? This is the moment of truth for any potato plant. When you see those beautiful white or purple flowers blooming at the top of the plant, it signals that the underground tubers are actively bulking up. This process requires a colossal amount of water and potassium. In a chemically treated garden, this is precisely when the synthetic fertilizers wash away or become depleted, causing the plant to panic and stall its tuber production. But deep down in your expertly prepared planting hole, the wood ash has been steadily dissolving over the past 2 months, maintaining a perfect, consistent supply of potassium. At the same time, the decomposing onion skins are actively retaining moisture, ensuring the root zone stays damp even during the intense heat of mid-July. I remember watching a neighbor's crop turn yellow and wilt during a summer drought, right as they flowered, while my ash-treated plants remained deep emerald green and vigorous. It is a very common myth that you need to aggressively side-dress potato plants with liquid fertilizer during flowering to get big yields. If you properly constructed the underground foundation on planting day with our secret mixture, the plant already has absolutely everything it needs perfectly staged and waiting right at its roots to complete its life cycle beautifully. Now, let us tackle a phenomenon that surprises many first-time users of this method, which is the dramatic reduction of weeds directly around the potato plants. While our primary focus has been defeating the Colorado potato beetle and doubling the potato yield, this mixture has a brilliant secondary effect. Wood ash is highly alkaline. When placed in the soil, it locally raises the acidity level in that immediate circle. Many common invasive garden weeds absolutely thrive in poor, acidic, compacted soil. When a weed seed blows into your potato patch and attempts to germinate near the ash-treated zone, the sudden alkaline environment shocks the delicate weed sprout, stunting its growth or killing it entirely before it breaks the surface. Meanwhile, your sturdy potato plant, which naturally prefers a slightly lower acidity overall, easily tolerates this localized alkaline pocket because of the massive nutritional benefits it is receiving. Think of it as a natural, selective herbicide. Let us aggressively debunk the myth that you have to spend hours on your hands and knees pulling weeds to have a successful potato crop. By intelligently altering the soil chemistry right at the base of your chosen crop, you create a microscopic environment that champions the potato while simultaneously suppressing the competition, leaving all the water and sunlight strictly for your future harvest. Let us dive into the mechanics of tuber expansion and why this method specifically prevents hollow heart disease in your giant potatoes. Hollow heart is a devastating condition where potatoes grow so fast that the center splits open, leaving a brown, hollow cavity inside. This is incredibly common when people dump raw nitrogen or fresh manure on their crops, causing chaotic, uncontrolled growth spurts followed by periods of starvation. However, our onion skin and wood ash combination acts as an intelligent, self-regulating feeding system. The phosphorus from the ash builds incredibly strong cell walls, ensuring that as the potato rapidly expands, its internal structure remains completely solid and dense. Imagine inflating a thick rubber tire versus a cheap, thin balloon. The tire can handle the pressure and expand smoothly without popping. I have harvested potatoes the size of a grown man's shoe using this method, and when I sliced them down the middle, they were pristine, solid white all the way through, without a single crack or blemish. There is a lingering myth in the gardening community that huge potatoes are always woody, hollow, or flavorless. That is completely false. It is not the size of the potato that causes poor quality. It is the uneven, chemical-driven speed of growth. Our natural method guarantees massive size alongside perfect premium internal quality. We must also talk about the critical concept of companion planting and how this underground mixture works in perfect harmony with what you plant above ground. To truly annihilate the Colorado potato beetle, you combine your underground ash and onion skin defense with strategic aerial deterrence. The absolute best companion plants for potatoes are bush beans and marigolds. When you plant bush beans in the alternating rows between your potatoes, they fix nitrogen from the air into the soil, which perfectly balances the high potassium of the ash you placed in the hole. Furthermore, the strong scent of blooming marigolds creates an additional layer of aromatic confusion for the beetles. Imagine the poor potato beetle flying over your garden. Below ground, the onion skins are releasing sulfur. Above ground, the marigolds are pumping out sharp floral scents. The beetle's radar is completely jammed. It cannot locate the potato plants at all. We really need to debunk the myth that crop rotation alone is enough to stop potato pests. While rotating crops is important, pests can and will fly from last year's spot to this year's spot. To achieve a zero-pest garden, you must actively deploy these biological, multi-layered defenses. The underground mixture is your foundation, and your companion plants are your ultimate protective roof. Let us pause for a moment and consider the pure economics and financial freedom of utilizing this specific gardening hack. In today's world, the cost of agricultural supplies is absolutely skyrocketing. A single bag of premium organic potato fertilizer can cost $20 to $30. A bottle of organic pest control spray can easily run another $20. If you are growing a large patch of potatoes to feed your family through the winter, these costs completely destroy the financial benefit of growing your own food. By capturing waste products from your fireplace and your kitchen cutting board, you are literally creating high-grade agricultural inputs for $0. It is the ultimate act of defiance against a commercial system that wants to nickel and dime you for every tomato and potato you produce. I once calculated the savings for a modest backyard garden using this method over 5 years, and it amounted to hundreds of dollars, not to mention the countless hours saved by not having to constantly spray toxic chemicals. There is a pervasive myth that successful gardening is an expensive hobby, meant only for people with lots of disposable income to spend at the nursery. That is a lie. The most successful prolific gardens on Earth are run by clever people who observe nature, recycle organic matter, and transform literal trash into an absolute bounty of free, healthy food. As we reach the end of the growing season, let us talk about the absolute joy and shock of the final harvest when you use this ash and onion skin method. Harvesting potatoes is already like digging for buried treasure, but with this technique, the payoff is truly unbelievable. You will take your pitchfork, push it into the soft, perfectly aerated soil right beside the withered plant, and gently lift. Instead of finding 3 or 4 medium-sized spuds, the earth will practically erupt with a massive cluster of 8 to 12 gigantic, flawless potatoes. They will be heavy, smooth-skinned, and completely free of any wireworm holes or scab disease. The dirt will fall away easily because the organic matter has kept the soil from compacting into hard clay, and the benefits do not end when you pull the potatoes out. The remnants of the wood ash and the decomposed onion skins remain in that garden bed, permanently elevating the fertility and biological health of that specific spot for whatever you choose to plant there next spring. It is time to banish the myth that potatoes deplete and ruin the soil. When you plant them using this regenerative, nutrient-packed method, you are actually leaving the earth richer, softer, and more vibrant than you found it. You have conquered the pests, doubled your food supply, and healed your land all at the same time. And there you have it, the ultimate, zero-cost secret to achieving the potato harvest of your dreams. By simply taking a handful of wood ash and dry onion skins and placing them right in the planting hole, you have essentially rewritten the rules of gardening. You have learned how to create a highly localized, alkaline, sulfur-rich environment that absolutely terrifies the Colorado potato beetle and burns away soil-dwelling pests like wireworms. You have seen how the massive influx of potassium and slow-release moisture acts like a turbocharger for the root system, literally forcing the plant to double its tuber production without a single drop of synthetic chemicals. This is not just about growing food, it is about taking back control from expensive garden centers and working in perfect harmony with nature's own ancient chemistry. I want to thank you so much for watching and learning with me today. If you're ready to try this incredible method and finally beat the beetles, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, give this video a big thumbs up, and leave a comment below. I want to know, what is the strangest or most surprising item you have ever used as fertilizer in your own garden?